signed George Hill to a 3-year, $57 million deal. We know the Lakers have been interested in George Hill, and I just got said in my ear, Zach Randolph also to the Kings.
Wow.
What do we make, just first blush, George Hill and Zach Randolph going to Sacramento?
Well, the Kings have been devoid of NBA talent. They trade away DeMarcus Cousins. They've got $50 million in cap room roughly to spend. And the real question for them is, could they get anybody to come? Because they could get in this scenario where they make offers, restricted free agent offers like to Otto Porter.
Right.
But here in this particular case, they go to two proven players and get them. So at least they have George Hill as a rock to build around. Nice payday for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you add Zebo at the end of his run to at least be a dependable play every night sort of big. And their real future, though, is in their youth and in developing something to be excited about going forward.
Yeah, but I think this is just, key moves now, because once again, if nobody wants to come there, then it really doesn't matter. They have to start at the bottom and build a foundation now. Now that they don't have DeMarcus Cousins, which I think was the big holdup, now they can start laying this foundation of, okay, let's get some solid veterans in. Let's get some young guys in, get a good mixture going. We'll continue to add pieces and see if we can be competitive.
Yeah.
I don't know how competitive they'll be this year, but at least they have some young pieces. They did well in the draft. They have a couple vets now. Now they can start building.
They're going to have to spend up to the league minimum. So the cap is at about $100 million, $99 million. Mm-hmm. Every team has to spend at least 90% of that. So they're going to have to give $90 million roughly to somebody.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, you get a core guy like George Hill, who's high character, who's willing to go there and help build that for the future. It's a nice addition because it's hard to get a player like Hill to go to a place that's in a build mode as opposed to go chase the playoffs, enjoy yourself, have a satisfactory next 3 years. Well, that $57 million will help make it more satisfactory, I guess.
Exactly.
But there's no question they're going to take a pounding in the Western Conference.
Same thing with Zach. You would think he would want to go somewhere too, and try to be in a winning situation. But I think veterans now are starting to realize that there's a lot of value. You can sit back at the end of that bench.
There's a lot of value in money, I think, is what we're finding out here.
And not just 1 or 2 years now. These guys can sit there for a while, help these guys. We saw Kevin Garnett do it in Minnesota. Yeah. You can help stick around, and they'll pay you a little bit more as you go. But I think there's tremendous value of having those two guys on your team.
What does this mean for the Otto Porter deal? Does it mean anything?
Is it still possible?
Right.
I don't
know.
know.
Yeah, it's still possible, I would think. I don't have the... Can we go over to the cap machine and figure it out? But my mental cap machine in my head, I think they'd still have enough to make that maximum offer.
Okay.
I would expect it to be accepted. The other thing I had heard was that Otto Porter had multiple suitors, and it wasn't a lock that he was even going to accept the Kings' offer. Maybe he will now because there's some veterans to go with him. I don't know. We'll find that out in short order.
Okay.
$100 million, you don't need veterans. You just need to back the truck up to the bank, keep it moving.
The Kings are finding a way to spend a little bit of this money. Again, George Hill and Zach Randolph heading to Sacramento. Tom Penn and Antonio Davis with us today, talking us through it. Much more Coast to Coast coming up right after this.
Deal to the Kings, as well as George Hill, 3-year deal worth $57 million. On the phone right now is our Adrian Wojnarowski joining us on Coast to Coast on this holiday. Free agency, so it's really not a holiday for many. Talk to me about why Sacramento was able to grab these two players. Why did they do it?
Well, Sacramento's trying, Carrie, to balance a rebuild here around young players with some veteran players who come from winning organizations. Zach Randolph, two-time All-Star in Memphis, and now George Hill, who comes from Utah. Now, Hill is a mentor now for De'Aaron Fox, their first-round pick from Kentucky, who's the point guard of the future in Sacramento. But it's very difficult to just turn a team over to a 19-year-old. It gives the Kings now, at the point guard position, a mentor. And then Zach Randolph, for the Kings, he's a tough-minded veteran player who at 35 who still can be a very effective player and really can help to build a culture, an environment there of toughness and of winning.
Okay, so reportedly the Kings, and we know they've had a bit of a talent drain, and I don't know if this is true or not, but we're hearing they may have about $20 million left in cap room. Do you foresee any other major moves like this, or any other players that they could have their eye on?
Well, listen, I think as they try to keep some financial flexibility going forward, if there's a young player that's available that they think they can be opportunistic with, I think that's a more likely scenario for their cap space. They're not a win-now team, and so to go out and spend too much more money on veterans, I think the veterans they brought in are part of a bigger plan to grow an environment there. But they have flexibility. They don't, even though they have the cap space, they can hold on to it and come back into it again next summer.
Okay, you mentioned earlier, and I don't know if we said this on our off air because you and I were talking, the grit and grind era is over there in Memphis. Are they on a rebuild as well?
Well, they're very much a win-now team in Memphis with Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, but for how much they were willing to pay two players later in their career, in Zach Randolph and then Tony Allen, who's also a free agent,
right,
who is synonymous with the success that they've had in Memphis. The cost of those players was more than Memphis was willing to pay anymore. They're trying to re-sign JaMychal Green, young athletic forward. They have to save money for him. He's a restricted free agent. Someone could put an offer sheet out on him. And so I think that's where their focus is in Memphis right now. But they're continuing to build around Mike Conley, Marc Gasol. But I think they feel like they've got to get a little bit younger, a little bit more nimble with their roster.
All right, Adrian Wojciechowski joining us now on the holiday. No real holiday during free agency, though. Again, the deal is Zach Randolph, 2 years, $24 million to the Kings, and George Hill, 3-year, $57 million again to the Sacramento Kings. Thank you for joining us here on SportsCenter Coast to Coast. David Lloyd, over to you.
Okay, Carrie, we got Tom Penn back with us to talk about it, and we were just discussing this a segment ago about what the Kings can do cap-wise. You've dialed them up. Tell us what exactly you're seeing with their pay structure right now.
Let's take a look at their cap room that they have. They've got $46 million in cap space, right?
After these signings?
No, that's before, coming into it. And their real value is in these young kids. De'Aaron Fox, who they've drafted, Willie Cauley-Stein, a recent pick, Buddy Hield. So you got all this youth. So check it out. George Hill comes in at $19 million. Shout out to Justin Page and Stats and Analytics. That's what we had him at. We had him at $19 million.
Okay.
Then they go shopping for Zach Randolph as another power player. And look, he's going to tick down to, let's say, $12 million. We don't know exactly what his first-year number is. It might be less.
Okay.
But I'll bring that in. And you're seeing that they also had signed Bogdanovich. So between those three, that only leaves them now $15 million left, let's say 15.7. So that question we had earlier about Otto Porter and that $24.5 million, 24.8 offer, not going to happen because they don't have the room for it. It goes red, it's bad.
Well, they could pay a luxury tax, could they not?
No, this isn't a tax issue. This is now a cap issue. In order for them to bring that 24.8 in, they got to have at least 24.8 up there in green.
Okay.
Okay, and they don't have it because of all these players that are under contract, Kufos and Temple, and, you just go down the list. They now have a number. They have over 12 players on the roster. So they sit on the cap. It doesn't work. And now Otto Porter is going to have to find somebody else to give him that money.
So when they make that offer sheet to him, it
wasn't ever accepted.
It wasn't accepted, so they're not on the hook for that.
That's right.
Okay.
Had Otto Porter said yes to that offer sheet and signed it, then the $24 million would have sat on their books like this, and then they wouldn't have had room for, say, Zach Randolph to come in.
Okay.
But as it turns out, they didn't want to wait for that answer, or they weren't confident they would get him, so they'll bring Zach back in, and Otto Porter, that never happened, right? So they'll just get Otto Porter back out. And that's what the Kings look like right now. But again, focus on what's below the line. Instead of these 5 players, the real value and the real interest is in how these young guys move up the ladder and show they can play.
Do they have to spend more money if they're $15.7 million under the cap? Do they have to?
Yep. Eventually, they're going to have to get to $90 million, which are 89, whatever it is, the minimum. They don't have to spend the full 15.7, but they do have to spend up to the league minimum 90% of the cap.
Okay. There you go. The Sacramento Kings making a bit of a splash here on the 4th of July, getting both George Hill and Zach Randolph, 2 established veterans, to go with some of the young players there in Sacramento. Tom Penn, working hard on the holiday.
We're working.
I think you're clear for the rest of this hour at least.
Let's hope not. Somebody do something.
Maybe something. We're still waiting on Gordon Hayward. We'll see how that plays out. Coming up, our top face of the earth speech in 1939 on the 4th of July. Unbelievable stuff. So our top 5 today, Carrie, is our top 5 sports moments that happened on the 4th throughout sports history.
You take it away, my friend.
Okay, I'll go first, and here we go. I'm just going to go back 1 year. Kevin Durant signing, announcing. Big day. I wasn't working that 4th of July, but what a moment this was in the NBA. So I must have had a better schedule or I don't know, something last year.
Someone liked you more.
Someone liked me much more. But anyway, Durant signing last year, big one. Number 4, McEnroe finally beating Borg at Wimbledon in 1981. Bjorn Borg had won 5 straight there. Johnny Mack dethroned him. Borg perhaps saw the future and would retire shortly thereafter in that year. Number 3, Mets Braves, 19 innings in 1985. I guess the game started on the 4th and went all the way into the wee hours of July 5th. It took, I don't know how many hours. It ended at 3:55, and they had this fireworks display planned, and they went ahead. So they're shooting off fireworks at 4 a.m.
Wow.
Dave Righetti's no-hitter. I watched this, Carrie, in a bar on Nantucket, and I got so caught up in the no-no that I missed my ferry back to the mainland.
No, so how'd you get home?
Well, the beer was cold. I managed to. I was okay there for a little while.
Oh, okay.
And then number 1 for me, it's got to be Lou Gehrig. Sick from the disease that would later take his name. The Iron Horse would be dead less than 2 years later. Just one of those poignant moments in sports history. 78 years ago today.
Yeah. Wow. Well done, my friend. I like your list. I think that ours are comparable today.
What do you got?
This 4th of July holiday. I'm going to go in at number 5 with you. Nolan Ryan for me. Talk about it. Becomes the 4th pitcher to record 3,000 strikeouts. July 4th, 1980. Were you in a bar when this was happening? Did you watch this?
I don't think I was able to be in a bar in 1980, but no, I didn't see this. I don't remember this, but it's a good one. It's a really good one.
All right, well, then number 4 for me, you might like this one. Joe Louis makes his pro debut on July 4th, 1934. Listen to this. Joseph Louis Barrow, a.k.a. Joe Louis, a.k.a. the Brown Bomber, fought in a casino called the Bacon Casino on the south side of Chicago. I don't think that's around, but the Bacon Casino, listen to that. Anything with bacon sounds good to me.
It works.
Even though I don't eat bacon anymore. Here we go, number 3. I moved this up. Kevin Durant, I feel like, I don't know if you put this in its proper place because what he did, as we see now, has really changed free agency. A super team has been invented because of this young lad and where he decided to go. Do you remember where you were July 4th last year? You were off, right?
I think it was off.
You were off.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I made this number 2, easy number 1, but I made it number 2. It was obviously before our time, but a very important moment in sports history that we should document that happened to happen on July 4th. And number 1 for me, fight of the century. How come you didn't put this on here? 1910, heavyweight champion Jack Johnson defeated James Jeffries. Do you remember that? Do you know of that fight of the century?
Was that on HBO? I can't remember that one. Was that?
It was out on HBO, but it was racially sensitive because Jack Jeffries had came out of retirement to fight Jack Johnson, and when he got knocked down twice, his corner threw in the towel because they just didn't want to see him have a knockout on his actual legacy, and so race riots ensued. You could understand why. It was 1910, very racially sensitive time, but just a great moment. It was called the fight of the century.
Jack Johnson, unbelievable life that he lived. It's a great biography. Anyway, we got Tom Penn here who has to judge this. We have a lot of things on the plate here. Tom, go ahead. Dig in.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate both of you. Thanks for not putting someone stuffing their face with hot dogs anywhere on this list. We've given that enough airtime.
Can we get some highlights, please?
Look, I got it. We're talking historic, and I have to applaud you for putting 3 black and white photos up there, 2 boxing images. Here you win it in my book.
Man.
That was spectacular.
She stole my game and she used it against me to beat me because I'm usually the historian, and Carrie now going back into the grainy reels of black and white film and somehow pulling
David,
it off.
It's interesting because when I win, you don't lose with grace, David.
No,
it's
I'm
surprising.
applauding you. Can you not hear me? I'm throwing bouquets in your direction.
I hear you say I stole your swag. You said I stole your game. Is that correct?
I think you've upped your game to get it up to my level. That's basically what I'm trying to say here.
Talk about it. Thank you very
compliment.
much, Tom. That was a backhanded compliment. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Thank you. Happy 4th of July.
What's next, David?
We've got
Happy
our 4th of July
July.
uniforms on. The red tie, the white shirt.
Yep, you got it.
Dark blue suits. Tom, great having you here. I said you were going to be off for the rest of the show. I lied again, as usual. All right, we're back after this.
Lights flashing, nice laughing, over my passion. What happened? I am a superstar. Things won't be the same. Everybody knows your name when you are a superstar.
All right, so welcome back to Coast to Coast, David. It's Hayward Watch. You're there with someone who has some information, our trusty front office NBA insider. That would be Tom Penn. Where shall he go is the big question. We're still awaiting that news. David, you take it away.
It sounds like, from what we've been hearing, the Miami Heat might be a dark horse here. It's going to come down to the Jazz and the Celtics. Some people think he's leaning Boston's way. They feel pretty good about what kind of a package they've offered him. So let's take us through the Celtics first and how Gordon Hayward would fit in with their pay structure.
Yeah, the Celtics are interesting. 29.7 is his max salary. They have that 28.4. There's actually a little more room because a cap count would go away, but they're about $500,000 off right now. Let's assume Danny Ainge can figure that out. This is pretty interesting because now here's your starting five: point guard, two guard, small forward, power forward, center, and then don't forget what's all down here. You know, Tatum and Brown, the youth. The troops are coming. There's a lot of help here. So I think that's very appealing for Gordon Hayward. Might be his choice, although he's going to take $44 million less to come here.
Okay, so let's go now to Utah, where he's going to make a boatload more money if he decided to stay in Salt Lake City. Maybe the team would not be as strong. What do you? He really wanted Ricky Rubio. They went out and signed him.
Yeah.
So they did that in small part or large part because of Gordon Hayward. How do you see this working out?
So same starting salary, $29.7 million. Notice they don't have the cap room, and we were talking about this, but they can use the Larry Bird exception to keep their own players. So they don't need the room. He fits in there, right? Now you got him paired with Gobert, with Ricky Rubio, the replacement player, with Derek Favors, and they brought back Joe Ingles, too. So this is a group he's familiar with. It's home for him, and it's $45 million, $44 million more. I think he stays.
Strictly for the cash considerations? I mean, he obviously is comfortable there, but...
It's interesting because we say $44 million more. If you're going from $4 million to $48 million, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're going from $130 million to $174 million, I'll make it up somewhere else. There's sort of some logic to that.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's just about money or fit. You never know what goes into these free agent decisions. It's where am I going to raise my family? Where's my wife happy? And where am I going to achieve my glory? He'd be a guaranteed all-star in the East because there's none left in the West.
The team he would be signing with if he went to Boston would have a better shot, certainly, of making the finals than this Jazz team. Correct?
I agree. They have to slog through everybody with the Jazz, and I think with the East, it's just Cleveland or bust. And you get the right kind of injury and the right kind of luck, and you're in the finals.
Okay, so Gordon Hayward, what we've been told is he's going to make some sort of a decision today. That's reported. We don't have anything definitive on that. And who knows which way he's going to go. He's living in San Diego right now, so he's on West Coast time, so maybe a little bit later in the afternoon.
You think he's up?
Yeah, he's up.
He better be up. It's kind of a big day for him.